freaking out, man. I'm freaking out. That's what the comic book collecting community is saying right now because UF4 Georgievich variant has finally come home. Home to its 2020 price. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. And yes, that is right. Here we are once again with another video on the YouTube channel talking about UF4 Georgievich variant. Why do we have to make so many videos about this? Because frankly, I think the UF4 Georgievich variant book is the most interesting comic book in all of comic books. I actually do think that. I don't know. What do you guys think? I actually think it's in the top 3 of most interesting books to talk about because it's the modern Grail. You know, it's the new Spider-Man. There's so many talking points around it. It's the book that all modern collectors know about. It's the book that Golden Age comic book collectors know about. Everybody has an opinion on UF4, Miles Morales, and in particular, this Georgievich variant, which just sold this past week for the low price of $12,800. So in this video, we got to talk about this sale. Talk about if this person got a Black Friday deal or did they actually catch a falling knife. And then at the end of the video, really talk about how one of the things that we have to take away from this sale is that, I'm telling you, right now, eBay is where it is at. But of course, before I get into the video, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it. Help support the channel. Do one of those things. But let's get into this video here today. Now, of course, here you see it right in front of you, boys and girls. eBay Ultimate Fallout 4 variant Georgievich sold on November 25th, 2023 for the low price of $12,860. Of course, you guys know this book by now. We've talked about it so many times. The first appearance of Miles Morales, the 1 in 25. I believe there's about 180 copies in CGC 9.8. You know, this puts that right around the same sort of census level of a ASM 129 in a 1.8 or a Giant Size X-Men 1 in a 9.8 or even a Hulk 181 in a 9.8. Kind of around there. You know, that's always been sort of the theory that if we were to say that Miles Morales is on the same sort of level of the Punisher or, you know, the X-Men, Giant Size X-Men team or Wolverine, if he's that popular of a character, well, in theory, his 9.8 census level comic book for the Georgievich variant could, in fact, hit some of those prices that we've seen for those other keys. And we would actually know that some of those prices have been drastically correcting in this current market as well. I mean, Giant Size X-Men #1 in the 9.8, a book that was at one point selling for the $50,000 price point, is now also selling around the $20,000 level. But that's neither here nor there. We need to talk about Ultimate Fallout 4 in the CGC 9.8. Once again, like I said, selling for $12,860, which puts this at the record low price that this book has hit in the last 3 years. You have to go all the way back to 2020 when this book was selling around the $8,000, $9,000 range. And then, of course, in January of 2021, shooting up to the $14,000 price point. Now, last time we talked about this book, I had a thumbnail that said, you know, it was inevitable. This book was eventually going to correct because at that time on Comic Link, that book had sold at the $16,000 level and everybody was freaking out then. In fact, actually, people were freaking out more then for that number than they are for this number, which is actually lower, even though still people are freaking out all over the social media space. But I do think that is at least a little bit of a pulse check where people are starting to finally come around to this idea that, you know, prices are going back to that end of 2020 level for most things. Again, I'll refer back to the comic book index update for that one coming soon. I'm very, very excited to see what the November numbers are going to be. You know, if the trend holds up, November is going to be even lower than that of October, and October was already lower than that of every single month prior to that. But again, that $16,000 level was on Comic Link and it wasn't actually recorded into the Go Collects and the GPAs and things like that. So in theory, you could say that was an anomaly, that was a ghost number, or you could say, well, eventually this book is going to hit, you know, one of these auction houses or sites where the numbers are actually entered into the system. And finally, we got just that over the Thanksgiving weekend. Now, there's a lot to unpack here with this sale. I mean, there's many different talking points that you can sort of bring up in this conversation. You know, did this person who bought this for $12,000, did they get a good deal? Or is this a falling knife? I mean, on the one hand, the trend has been a very, very steep decline, as you guys can see, you know, at the top, where earlier in this year, even, you know, January of 2023, this book was selling at $43,200. I mean, that is a massive, massive decline, that this book has been on ever since, the top of the year. And in my personal opinion, I wouldn't necessarily be fighting the trend. I mean, you never fight the trend. I mean, everything is pointing to this book going lower. There's no indications that this book is not going to continue to go down. There's no indications that our comic book index isn't going to continue to go down, outside of the fact that, you could speculate that, based on where things usually move in December, and then, macro policies and the economy and things turning around, like maybe Q1 will be a little bit better for comic books. But right now, it is very, very difficult to predict what is going to happen with this book. We've seen with the comic book index that right now the values of books are right around their November/December 2020 price. That tends to be where the index value is. So the theory would be that, if this book was a $9,000 book, in fact, actually, let me go over to GPA right here so we can actually look at more concrete numbers. You'd have to go back to 2020 here, and you have to say, okay, well, what was this book selling for at the end of 2020? Here in November, it was a $9,000 comic book. In August, it was an $8,200 comic book. And then at the beginning of the year, it was actually in the $2,500, $2,700, $2,600 range. Well, this book did get inflated in the middle of the year, but the question is, are comic collectors actually going to let it fall past this price? Now you start to get into a price where there's been enough sales, across all places, even on consignment pages, that enough people have bought into this at this range that I would doubt that people would let it fall back to, say, the $4,000 or the $3,000 price point. I think that this is, probably the bearish figure that it could reset to, and it'll be interesting to see, if this book actually goes below 5 figures, could that cause people to, panic and not actually want to pick it up? But, I suspect that there's still going to be enough dealers out there that are willing to just buy this for $8,000 and sit on it, because this is still going to be a desired modern book. I know a lot of people in my comment section are probably like, oh, this book is trash, and people don't like Miles Morales and stuff. But whether you like him or you like this book or you don't like this book, there's always going to be people who are interested in collecting it. So it is going to have some value. So I don't suspect it's going to go lower than that particular price point, but I could totally be wrong in that. Although if we go over to the current Comic Link auction, obviously, this guy who is bidding on this one right here, a book that ends, in 2 days from now, here 11/30, this price is currently at the $15,250 range. So even though this book just sold for $12,860, this person doesn't actually care, because the Comic Link market is willing to spend around this $16,000 level. I mean, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, it was the $16,000 sale on Comic Link that had people freaking out in the first place. And these numbers aren't actually going to be entered into GPA. So you have to sort of wonder, did this person who bought this book right here just happen to get a great, Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal over the long holiday weekend? This was, again, a book that ended on Saturday at 10 o'clock, Pacific Standard Time. So maybe that was not the best, time for this auction to end, and somebody got a great deal. And you can see some of the volatility that exists within eBay right here, where you see, like, let's take a look at the 9.2. The 9.2 on the 30-day sold for $2,300. So if we go back, here to our graph and we say, okay, a $2,300 sale in November of 2023. Well, what was this book selling for in, December of 2020? Well, $2,100. So you could look at this and say that this is an indicator that, the 9.8 sale will eventually sell at the same price that this book sold for, at the end of 2020. So like maybe the 9.8 is going to go to 8,000 or 9,000 or whatever the case. But you have to also remember, this is the auction price where, if you look at the 9.0 right here, 30-day sale, someone picked this book up, on a fixed price just here on November 23rd for $5,000. So all of a sudden, this book got its record high price, for $5,000 because somebody just wanted it then, there, and now, for this book. And so that's kind of one of the interesting things about this whole story, is that we're talking about what is the absolute floor value of a book like this? What is the absolute, $1 auction start? Someone in the market has to absorb it. What is somebody willing to pay for it? And again, it feels like there's going to be enough people that are willing to at least put up a resistance at this level. So that could be something for us to keep our eye on with this book, because these prices are so volatile, like depending on where you sell it, depending on when you sell it, depending on if you $1 start it, depending on if you have it on a consignment page with a fixed price, there could be a lot of volatility in it. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes over the course of the next few months. Now, one of the last little things I want to leave you with is that a lot of those low sales have been happening on eBay auctions. And I think it's very interesting that on our Comic Link auction, that book is still at the $15,000 level or $16,000 level, the time before that. And I think right now, I've said it many times on this channel, I think eBay is really where it's at right now. I think eBay auctions are absolutely the place to get the best deals, even more so than that of some of the auction houses like Heritage and Comic Connect and Comic Link, because you have very educated buyers, watching these auctions and a lot of dealers willing to pick up these books for what is seemingly a good deal. Whereas on eBay right now, I think with so many people being scorned of buying on eBay and a lot of the risk that comes with it, because, you never know, there's tons of scams and things like that going on eBay. You got to be very, very careful about, who you're buying from on those accounts. But there is a lot of opportunity because these books are just randomly put up. So what I would say to all you guys is if you have certain grails that you wouldn't mind picking up in your collection, you need to have, those saved searches, type in the book that you want, go up there to the top. In fact, let me just show you guys really quick, just in case you don't know about this, go up here, type in Ultimate Fallout 4 variant Djurjevic, go up here, say, save this search. Again, you have to log in, but you save this search and you'll get those email notifications. And so you will be able to, always get notified when you have an auction going on for a book that you may want to keep your eye on, because right now people are absolutely cleaning it up on eBay with some of those $1 stars. But that's all for this video. That was me just doing a little bit of a report on the Ultimate Fallout 4 Djurjevic variant. Again, like I said at the beginning of this video, I think this is the most interesting book in comic books. In a lot of ways, it's the most interesting book in comic books. There's so many people that have opinions on this book, so many people that are invested in what this book sells for. So many people think that this is the best book ever. So many people think that this is, belongs in dollar bins, so it's a very, very interesting book to see. And it's always interesting to see how people react to the sales. But for me, again, I'm neither Team Moonboy or Team Bear Bro with this book. To me, I just think, okay, it is what it is. Here we are, macro environment, things are coming down, things are resetting. Probably going to be a good buy for a lot of people. When we get to better times, better economic times, a couple years from now, when we get the next Spider Miles Morales movie, the end of the trilogy, when we're in a better economy where interest rates are low, there's going to be people who are willing to spend more money on it. So this book probably is going to bounce back up, maybe not to the ultimate record high, at least not in the short term, but certainly above this last $12,000 sale. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys think that this person got a good deal, or did you think that they caught a falling knife? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.